Please join me in welcoming back our special guest musician today, Dr. Marc Dickman. He's a multi-talented musician who has played all over the world. And you can read more information about him in your order of service. Marc, Gary? Thank you both. Our opening words today are by Ian Rydell. Come one, come all. Come with your missing pieces and your extra screws. Come with your soft edges and your hard spots. Come with your bowed heads and your upright spines. Come all you flamboyant and drab, verbose and quiet fidgeting, and lethargic, all you with large vision and tender hearts, all you with small courage and tender fears. Bring your lisp, your stutter, and your song. Bring your gravel and your drowl and your lilt. Bring your anger and your joy and your righteous indignation. misfits and conformists and everyone in between. Come into this space and be welcome. Bring who you are. Bring where you have traveled. Bring what you long for, and let us worship together. I invite you to please rise in body or spirit and join our song leaders to sing our opening hymn, number 360 in the gray hymnal, Here We Have Gathered. We'll sing all 3 verses. Good morning. I'm Donna Zimmerman, and I'm your worship leader this morning. We are so happy that you have chosen to be here today when it's a beautiful day and it's got lots of other places we could be. You are here. Thank you. You are welcome to bring your whole self to this, our space of beloved community. Bring your full identity in all its glorious shades and ages and ambiguities and abilities. Bring your questioning mind with all its confusion and chaos and uncertainty. Bring your open heart seeking to give and receive love and support. You will find that Unitarian Universalists journey down many different paths, discover our own individual truths, and find purpose and meaning in our lives. We do not have a required creed to which you must adhere. Rather, we have a shared belief in the values of our denomination, which you will find printed on the back of your order of service. We strive to live out those values in our individual journeys of faith. I extend a special welcome to any first-time or returning guests who are here. Please join us for refreshments after the service where we spend time socializing. Feel free to ask any member questions you may have, and they will be happy to answer you. Or, if they don't know the answer, get you to somebody who does. We offer regular classes to learn about our church and our denomination, and if you are at the point of wanting to join our church, please talk to the volunteer at the welcome table when you entered. They will be happy to provide you with information. Now, if you will make sure that all of your electronic devices are silenced, we will enter our sacred time together. As I mentioned earlier, our denomination doesn't have a required creed or theology that all must believe on their path to spiritual growth. Rather, we have principles that guide us to be our best selves. This includes how we choose to be in relationship with each other in this church. Members of our church came together to develop our commitment to each other. We say this agreement, this covenant, every Sunday to reaffirm our intentions. Please remain seated and join me in reciting the Congregational Covenant, which is printed in your order of service. We covenant to engage one another with honesty, kindness, and respect, to value diversity, seek understanding of our differences, and practice gracious accountability with care, love, and empathy. We make these promises to those who are here and those yet to come, so that we may be a safe, welcoming, and beloved community of acceptance, learning, and transformation. Now please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our call to worship. The words are also printed in your order of service. The symbol of our faith is a chalice with a flame. Each Sunday, a member of our congregation lights our chalice as we hear words that remind us of why this is important to us. I invite Michelle Locker to please come forward to light our chalice today. And listen to the words of Reverend Julianne Lepp. We seek our place in the world and the answer to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, may our hearts be open to unexpected answers. May the light of our chalice remind us that this is a community of warmth, of wisdom, and of welcoming multiple truths. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. Our church is self-supporting through the generosity of our members and friends. Indeed, we are a spiritual community. However, the world we live in is very real and very rational. We are mindful of being good stewards of our current ongoing pledge support to fund our programs and our ministries, pay our staff, and take care of the necessary expenses that ensure our comfort in the beauty of our building and our grounds. We offer you many ways to give, including clicking on the link on your homepage on our website, setting up a bank draft, scanning the QR code, which y'all had reason to scan QR codes last week with the Dolphins, so everybody knows how to scan QR codes now, in your order of service, and dropping it in the collection plate on Sunday. Yes, we still pass the plate. While we are very modern with our QR codes and all that other stuff, we are also traditional in passing the plate. This is an act of community. We touch and pass the plate to our neighbors, adding our energy to the collective. No matter which method you choose to give, please participate in this ritual by taking the plate when it comes your way and passing it to your neighbor or to the row behind you. We have Ron Furster and Marianne Miller, our offertory ushers today, who will come forward to take the collection. We are pleased to have the video presence of Reverend Joanna Fontaine Crawford, who is minister at our sister UU Church in Live Oak, Texas. Please make yourself comfortable as you listen to her very important message about the long-term and concerted efforts of those who aim to make our country into a theocracy of their beliefs.
What is your vision of the society that you want to live in? What is your vision of this world and this country and our local community? The thing that you are willing to work for and just the way that you want to be living in this world. I got to get a little taste of this past August. Now, we Unitarian Universalists, as you've already heard, we will often use the phrase beloved community. And what this is referring to is not just the community that we build within our walls, but the community that we build outside, the world that we all live in with our work and our neighbors and the politics and everything else. So like I said, I got a little taste of this August. My spouse and I and our two young adult children went to Chicago, to the Parliament of the World's Religions. And this is something that happens about every 3 years in different parts of the country. And it's where you have people who come together representing many of the world's religions. And we share our practices and our traditions, and we learn from each other. And over that week, we saw so many workshops and lectures and performances and worship services. But we talked about it, and for all four of us, the most meaningful thing was exactly the same. It was lunch. But not just any lunch. At the Parliament, the Sikhs, you've heard it, and it is correctly pronounced Sikh, not Sikh, but a large community of Sikhs come to the Parliament, and at this one, they set up you can turn the volume down just a little there. You can just get a little bit of the ambient sound there. They set up a gigantic temporary tent with plywood floors and fabric on the ground. They also set up some temporary shelves and some little sinks with clean water. And so you go in there and you take off your shoes and you wash your hands and then you cover your head, all genders, with something that you've brought, or they loan you a clean headkerchief. And then you sit down in rows on the ground. Now, if physically that is not something that you can do, they also have a few tables and chairs set up. This is a tradition for them going back to the very beginning of their religion. And after you sit down, sitting next to your friends, your family, but also complete strangers, they start coming around with these giant pails of food. It's an all-vegetarian meal, and it is also completely delicious. It was curries and rice and salads and fruits and naan and dessert. And then even when you leave, they have chai and coffee. And they just keep coming around and refilling your plate until you finally indicate to them, no thanks, I'm full. And you are encouraged to sit there and talk with those around you and just enjoy being together. There is no charge for this. And for those of us who perhaps in high school were invited with a friend to a fundamentalist church for a pizza lock-in, there's no proselytizing, absolutely no proselytizing. They have, some posters and stuff up that you can look at if you wish to. But their goal is not conversion. They firmly believe in your right to your own religious beliefs. That's one of their values. And their other big value is of equality. And that is why they do this in the way that they do. Sikhs believe in the total equality of all people, no matter your gender, your race, your caste. And so that is why they do this in this way. The idea, and historically this actually happened, is that whether you were an emperor or a peasant, you would be seated side by side, you would be eating the same food, and you would be connecting with one another. And I will have to tell you, this continues, that experience continues to be in my brain and on my heart, because there was just so much that I was seeing. Because see, one of their other values is of service. They believe that every person has the right to be fed good food. And so for them, it is a spiritual discipline to serve. One of the things that, because we got to do this every single day of the Parliament, and on one of the later days, I was really kind of looking around. There was something that seemed different from what I am used to in terms of the way that they were serving us. And I finally realized what it was. If we go, think of the last family reunion you went to or something like that. It is just a part of our culture that we subtly or not subtly, we kind of put down the whole idea of service, right? Like, think of how we treat like people in the food service or people in retail. Some of you who are in those fields are like, right? We see servers as being less than. And even for some of us, like at family reunions, I know what I have usually seen is usually the older, honored, especially men, will be seated while other people are doing the serving. And that wasn't happening here. All ages were doing the serving. There were youths coming by with the pails, and there were also elderly men who, based on how I was seeing people treating them, were obviously honored for who they were. Not because of age or status, but just in relationship. And they were all honoring each other. So that's one of those things that is continuing to stick with me about how is it that we live out our religious values, because I was getting a crash course in what it could mean. So this is one vision of a society, right? One vision for what we could be. And to me, this was fully in alignment with this idea of beloved community, where everyone can have what they need and where we are all treated with equity and equality. And as we know, that is just one vision of what a society can be. And there are people who hold a different vision, and one that is diametrically opposite of this. So have you heard of the seventh mandate? Anyone? Okay. Anyone heard of dominionism? That's something you've been hearing more of, and we're going to get to that. This is an aspect of dominionism. It comes out, it began in the 1970s, largely in the conservative, like charismatic Pentecostal movements. And there were about 3 or 4 leaders who came up with this idea. And part of what they were reacting to was the Supreme Court decision that said it cannot be mandatory in a public school to pray. Those who want to say there's no prayer in schools, we know the old joke. Anytime there's going to be an algebra test, right, there's always going to be prayer in schools. And you can always pray, but it cannot be mandatory. And that, for some people, was a bridge too far. And so they came up with this goal, that there are 7 mountains in a society: religion, business, government, family, media, education, and entertainment. And if you can control all of those mountains, then you can control a society. And what they said was, we conservative Christians have been putting all of our attention on religion, and we need to take control of all these others. Now, let me be really clear that the word here is control, also domination. It's not about influence. I mean, I absolutely hope that Unitarian Universalists can have influence in all of these different aspects. I absolutely love the fact that the top grossing movie this last summer, one that is winning lots of awards, Barbie, with our Unitarian Universalist values about equality and feminism and authenticity, that was directed by a Unitarian Universalist, Greta Gerwig. I want to have influence. I want to have influence. There is a difference between influence and control. So this is one of sort of 3 main issues in what is often referred to as dominionism. So dominionism celebrates Christian nationalism. You've probably also heard the term Christian nationalist. This is the idea, not just we're going to go do our thing and everyone else can do what they want, but that we are here to create specifically a Christian nation. And they often will draw on incorrect history that the United States, that our founding fathers were all Christian and intended this to be a Christian nation. They promote religious supremacy. They do not see the different religions as being different paths up the mountain, equal. They're really clear. Not only is Christianity the only religion that should be, but their particular brand, their particular interpretation of fundamentalist Christianity. And they endorse theocratic vision, not meritocracy. Now I can't do the words. Meritocracy. Thank you. There's something in the air today. Not democracy, but actually theocracy. The idea that that if there are parts of the Constitution that do not align with their vision, with their, idea of religious laws, that you don't use those, you throw those away from the Constitution. You follow what they consider to be biblical law. Like I said, this is not about different choices, it's about control. Here's an actual quote from one of those people in the 70s who were first creating this framework that we now are really having to deal with. Dominion has to do with control. Dominion has to do with rulership. Dominion has to do with authority and subduing, and it relates to society. In other words, what the values are in heaven need to be made manifest here on earth. I'm going to point out, you don't hear a whole lot about charity and feeding everyone and equality when they are talking. Dominion means being the head and not the tail. Dominion means ruling as kings, so we are kings for dominion. It's about domination. Here's the third part of this sort of framework that once I understood this part, a lot of things for me started falling in place because I couldn't understand why there were so many people who were supporting leaders who are outright owning the fact that they are dominionist. They were supporting them even when it went against their own best interests. Well, it's because of this idea. They believe that there is going to be an end times great wealth transfer, that God will appoint Christian leaders who will preside over a wealth transfer, moving money from the wicked to the righteous. Which category do you think they're going to put us in? Here's, and I can get this being tempting. They will relieve Christians of all financial woes. And they will put true believers, this is what we are seeing in our political landscape right now, into political and cultural positions of power. When I learned about this part of this, it all started making sense. Because I can understand if you feel like your whole life you have had little to no power, if you are constantly worrying about the financial aspect of your life, constantly worrying that one bad car repair or some serious illness could ruin you and your family, I can see how this would be a very tempting idea. So how are we going to be? One other little thing I think that you need to understand, because we often right now are hearing the terms religious liberty. Y'all been hearing that, right? And not just from, we have our own definition of religious liberty, right? Kind of like the six, and it's not really that definition. Religious liberty for dominionists is a temporary tool to help them achieve their goals. Here's a quote. We must use the doctrine of religious liberty to gain independence for Christian schools until we train up a generation of people who know that there is no religious neutrality, no neutral law, no neutral education, and no neutral civil government. Then they will get busy in constructing a Bible-based social, political, and religious order which finally denies the religious liberty of the enemies of God. In other words, anyone who doesn't believe the way they do. When you hear religious liberty, this is what it's temporary, and this is what it means. It's a code word for defending the right of Christians to continue to hold cultural authority and privilege. I wrote a newsletter column this week, and I said, hate to bum you out, but I need to bring it to your attention that this is 2024, and this is an election year, and it is a presidential election year. I've talked to a lot of people for whom the Iowa caucuses kind of pushed us out of our denial. Oh, it's happening. It's really happening. And we are going to be dealing with people who want this dominionist idea. These are what they are going to be working for. So what are we going to do about it? Obviously, we're going to be out there trying to get out the vote, right? But what are we going to be doing on a day-to-day basis? Here's what I am doing. I encourage you to consider it for yourself. I have created a set of guiding principles for myself. Again, this is not about, yes, I'm going to go and try and register voters and things like this. This is about how I'm going to show up in the world with my neighbors, with people who don't think the same way that I do. Because one of the things we also have to accept is that progressives, there are things that we did that did not help our cause, that made people resentful. When we act arrogant, when we act like we know what is better for everyone, when we act like ours is the only right way, how many people do we repel? And it's hard. It's a tension that we have to hold because we also have to speak up for our values. So I think it sometimes helps to hear other people's guiding principles. So these are mine, and this is number one. These are not for you. These are mine. This is just it's easier to edit, right, than to start with a blank slate. These are to get you thinking about what is true for you. And the thing with guiding principles, it needs to be compelling because you're actually, and I highly recommend writing them down because that's going to force you to really think this through. Guiding principles need to be compelling to you, and they need to address what you actually want to change in yourself. Guiding principles are not what you're doing already. Like for me, I was talking to someone else about this, and he was talking about like one of his guiding principles is about not, wading into fights and being aggressive. That's just not my way. I am absolutely flee. I'm going to be like, nice talking to you, goodbye. So my guiding principles had to be something that pushed me to be the person who I want to be. So I came up with 5 specifically for 2024. I align my life with love, which means being patient, kind, and staying connected. I gather facts from reputable sources before sharing my thoughts. I prioritize learning from the lived experiences of those most affected by an issue. I seek common ground, listen for understanding, and courageously share my views. And I make time for joy and gratitude. We know what it has been like since 2016, where we've often lived with worry just being this thing that we are always carrying with us. when you get to December 31st, 2024, no matter what has happened, you're not going to get those days back. You're not going to get those opportunities to be with family, to experience joy, and to have fun along the way. Now I'm just trying to guide what you do in your guiding principles. You come up with your own. This is a famous quote that you use, love. Go out into the highways and byways of America. Give the people something of your vision. You may possess only a small light, but uncover it, let it shine. Use it in order to bring more light and understanding to the hearts and minds of men and women. I would also take out the gender binary now. Give them not hell, but hope and courage. There are very loud voices right now. Me, I'm going to focus more on feeding people than in controlling them.
Please rise in body or spirit and join our song leaders for the closing hymn, Break Not the Circle, number 323 in the gray hymnal, then remain standing for the closing words. Please remain standing, and Michelle will now return to extinguish the chalice as I say the closing words of Teresa Youngblood. May you be invited to the party. May you be asked to dance. May you be amazed to learn that your own precious heart already knows and leaps to the song. And in that moment of whirling in the expansive affirmation of creation, an embodiment of the divine's boundless love, may you turn and face the door, arms outstretched to sing wide welcome, the ever-changing song of togetherness to those who have yet to discover that they too belong here. Our worship service has ended. May you go into the world singing and dancing and welcoming others to this beloved community.